Sherrell, we're now looking at a complete 180 from where this team was in middle January, early February of this past season, where you and I did a post game, and we've talked about it on here before. After that Pittsburgh game, where we had zero expectations of this team even making the postseason. Well, now after today's announcement, UNC is by all accounts going to be in everybody's top five, some people's top three, and even fewer folks' number one going into the year. How do you anticipate this staff is going to change or modify how they coach based on those expectations?
Oh, I think they'll coach harder. I think last year there were probably times where they had to be a little gentle. And I think Hubert Davis, I don't want to call it gentle, but he's very positive. And so I think there were times that last year where maybe he didn't light into them in a way that he wanted to, just because, to your point, he's still building a rapport with the team. He's a first year head coach. Things weren't going great for a lot of time, but I think this year, and Joey, we were talking about it offline. Jeff Markman made the point. It's kind of like he can say, okay, March 1st through, the championship game, that's who you are, and that's the standard. And anything less than that, and we're going to have a conversation. So they know what's expected of them. There's no breaking in. There's no learning what each other does. There's none of that. We've been there before. We've been there together, and now we're going to try and do it again. Obviously, it's going to be different. Things aren't going to go the same. There are going to be new challenges, but they all kind of, I think, have a better understanding of each other. And that comes from the Hubert Davis, stopping by his office 3 times a week to talk about something other than basketball. But they have the rapport now. And so now it's just about going out and executing as opposed to kind of building the relationships and building the chemistry and learning a new system all at the same time. They don't have all that anymore.
Yeah, we mentioned it on here too. I mean, it's he's got a test case now, and he's got evidence where he can show, hey, this works, knuckleheads. Like, I don't know what you were before late February, but when calendar turned to March, this is who you guys were. And like you said, they can just point back to March 1 of this year and make everything work.
Yeah, and the other thing too, Joey, like all this underdog stuff, this magical Carolina run
Yeah.
as an 8 seed, and the feisty guys from Chapel Hill, that stuff's
Plucky,
over.
plucky.
Yeah, but yeah, that is done. They are now kind of on, I don't want to say on top of the college basketball world, but a lot more is expected of them than last year. So I am curious to see how they will handle it. Uh, the one main curiosity I have, and maybe I shouldn't be wondering about this considering it's Hubert Davis and his energy, is like, how do you get up for next year? How do you get up for Cleveland State on
Mm-hmm.
December 11th? How do you get a game against, no disrespect to Clemson, which means full disrespect to Clemson, but how do you get up for a Clemson game, next February 9th when you've played in, two of the biggest games in school history, and you've done these amazing things, and you've building with 7,000 people that like 18 million people watched. Like, how are you going to be able to channel that and use that in games that I want to say ultimately don't matter, but in the grand scheme of things don't matter? So that is my curiosity for this particular team is, are they going to be able, you can't expect them to keep the same level of
Mm-hmm.
intensity they had against Duke in the Final Four or Kansas in the national championship game, but is there going to be less variance, I guess is what I'm saying. Are they going to be able to keep themselves at 93% as opposed to going 65% one game and then 112 the next game? Like, can it just be a little more consistent considering, all things considered?
If nothing else, the fan base and Inside Carolina subscribers can go back to losing their minds the first time UNC loses a game they shouldn't lose. I do love that you point this out, that it's kind of a concern. How do you go into the season to maintain that energy level? The good news is that Hubert Davis has a full off season now to try to think about that. Last year he was trying to get a team together and really probably couldn't even focus on his own guys until he got to the late fall or got to October. So the good news is for fans and I see folks that you guys can watch a coach now that has some experience and has his whole staff together, that has the blessing of a full off season, that they can work on this while they're recruiting and while they're on vacations or whatever. I want to take a quick second and talk about something that Sherrell kind of got into there for a second. And with this being such a new thing, right? And when I say new thing, I mean the experience that UNC is going to bring back next year. Usually, teams that are successful in the NCAA tournament for the longest periods of time have a good amount of upperclassmen on their roster. I haven't done the math, but I know this UNC roster is going to be littered with juniors and seniors next year, and not just juniors and seniors, but juniors and seniors that have now a very good amount of postseason experience, which they didn't have at all going into last season. One of the things we talked about on this show, probably 6 or 8 weeks ago, was that this team was no longer relevant nationally. Well, that has completely pivoted to now, as we were talking with Sherrell just a second ago, this team is officially going from the hunter to the hunted. I can't help but go back to his introductory press conference when he said, I want guys who are going to unpack their bags. And damn if he hasn't done it in one season, right? And I, people outside the program, other fan bases, people that are trying to tweet through their feelings on Twitter, whatever, they can cast aspersions all they'd like to, but by the same token, Hubert Davis is, to your point, Sherrell, building a program and doing foundational things now, with having these guys want to come back and make another run at things and be more involved in the longer term of the program. It's
And
really it's nuts to see, considering what we were thinking going into this year and then most of this season. Go ahead.
and now to Sean's point again, there doesn't need to be a quote unquote rebuilding year the way
Mhm.
things have worked out. That was what we thought this year was going to be, or this upcoming year was going to be, because we all kind of thought that Armando and Caleb and Leaky would be gone. And so that was going to be the rebuilding. And then it's like, oh, well, after year two with this freshman class and adding some guys in 2023, then they'll, be closer to back. But now it seems like you kind of have I don't want to say seamless transition, but you'll have carryovers from this championship run and guys who play a lot next year coming back in 2 years, along with an infusion of talent, plus the guys who are freshmen this upcoming year will be more mature. So you can kind of see now, okay, they've got a chance to put 2 or 3, 4 good years together. Even with some unexpected losses, they still have that chance. So it's like you said, it's crazy where we are compared to where we thought things were 2 months ago.